President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel have been meeting in the United States Oval Office today in the White House, talking about a whole range of issues, everything from trade to the Iran situation, to the situation with the Houthis, to the Gaza, just a whole range of things that have been talking about. Some interesting comments, some change of terminology in some cases, indications of where things may go. A lot of difficult decisions are going to be coming out from the White House, and a lot of challenging things still on the table about what may happen in the region. So let's just jump right into it. First of all, in terms of Iran, President Trump made a bit of a surprising statement because he said that there was going to be direct talks with Iran on Saturday.
We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it. But it's getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful. And I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful. We hope that's going to happen.
Now, that was a bit of a surprise just off the surface of it, because Iran had said as recently as yesterday, they're not interested in direct talks with the United States. They said we may do some indirect talks, but we're not going to do direct talks with the United States, because they said, what's the value and the point of that? Because you're saying that you want us to get rid of our nuclear weapons program. We don't have a nuclear weapons program. So there's really nothing to talk about. And so there was various reasons why the Iranians would want to go down that path. But now here Trump is announcing today, for the first time that I've seen anywhere, that actually, yes, there's going to be direct talks on Saturday. So these apparently a big deal that he expects to come out of that meeting. And he's talking a little bit more about what may come of it. And of course, that was one of the big questions of the reporters in the room. We're going to be asked, what does he think is going to come as a result of it? Now, let's just back up for a second, because look, there's a lot of bad blood between Iran and specifically the Trump administration, not just the U.S. government writ large, because obviously back in the 2014-2015 period with the Obama administration, they had worked painstakingly over about a 2-year period to come up with a JCPOA, the nuclear accord, which put severe constraints on the Iranian nuclear program, their research and nuclear power programs, in exchange for economic benefits and the lessening of some sanctions. That lasted until May of 2018, when then President Trump came in his first term of office and got out of the deal completely. He always said he was going to negotiate a better deal. He was going to get something better for it. He was going to include their ballistic missile program. That never happened. So all the time that we got in there, all the constraints that had been on there were removed. One of the big complaints about Iran at the time was we had this long, painful negotiating process with the United States and several European partners. We came to this agreement. We were living by it. And then arbitrarily, the U.S. President Donald Trump got out of it. And so they're saying that they don't have a lot of confidence or trust that any new deal would be followed any more than the last one was. And if they're going to be asked to give up something more, then, well, actually, they just said they're not going to be willing to give up something more. So the negotiations under the Trump administration previously went, of course, nowhere. The Biden administration had some talks, and they were talking about various levels of things, literally went nowhere. All 4 years of that discussion went absolutely nowhere. And now here comes Trump back in, ratcheted things up. You may recall a week ago that he said, I gave an ultimatum. I think the ultimatum was given on the 19th of March. And he said he has a 2-month ultimatum. Either negotiate to end your nuclear program, or there will be bombing, is the phrase that he used, and repeated it a couple of times. And that's kind of a big deal because, again, Iran claims they don't have a nuclear weapons program. Our military, CIA, and even the Mossad has various times said that they don't have one, but they are lowering and shortening the breakout time that they could have, et cetera. So now Iran is saying, okay, we haven't been able to get anything done since May 2018. And now here we are in April 2025, and they have now 2 months to make a deal, or Trump says there will be bombing. So now at least it appears that Iran is willing to discuss. I don't have any idea yet. We haven't been able to see any of the details on what he means by direct talks, who it's going to be, at what level, what the intent is, or what's on the agenda, et cetera. None of that's been revealed yet, other than the comment you just saw there that there's going to be direct negotiation. So big time importance is what are the consequences if it doesn't? So we haven't, basically in 7 years, we didn't have any negotiated cess. And now then we're saying maybe in 2 months we will. Well, the obvious question, what happens if that time period expires, which is, I think, almost exactly 6 weeks from today? Trump answered that question too.
On Iran, can you give us more details about where the meeting on Saturday is going to take place?
Tell you that. I can just tell you there's a major meeting going on between us and Iran, and that'll take place on Saturday, and it's at top level.
A lot of people think that those talks are not going to lead anywhere because the Iranians will never give up.
Sure. I think that's a possibility too.
If diplomacy fails, is the United States, under your leadership, ready to take military action to destroy the Iranian nuclear program and remove this threat?
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon.
So is that a yes?
You know, it's not a complicated formula. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all there is.
So
Can't have it. Right now we have countries that have nuclear power that shouldn't have it. But I'm sure we'll be able to negotiate out of that too as part of this later on down the line. But Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the talks aren't successful, I actually think it'll be a very bad day for Iran if that's the case. Yeah.
So obviously, without being explicit, like he was the previous time, he implied that that same threat of bombing is going to be on the table. Well, let's take a look at that. What would that look like? Because it's long been analyzed and discussed and considered what it would mean to actually take out the Iranian nuclear program. There's no Iran nuclear weapons program, so it's ironic that Trump says on the one hand it's not complicated, they can't have a nuclear weapon, and they're saying, okay, cool, then we're no problem because we don't have one, so problem solved. Well, no, because when you look at the nature of at least what's been reported that were in that ultimatum on the 19th of March, it's that their entire nuclear program, not just an alleged nuclear weapons program, but the entire nuclear program has to be dismantled. That means all of their centrifuges, all of their capacity, the storage, the nuclear facility, stuff that they have reprocessed, et cetera. All those things have to go away. And there's more than that, as though that weren't enough. They also have to significantly curtail their ballistic missile program. So I've mentioned this a few times, all the things that are necessary for them to defend themselves against a superior opponent, they're being asked to get rid of. So the prospect that this meeting is going to result in something on Saturday, or it's even going to lead to anywhere to where there's going to be a long-term agreement, even if it's agreed to within 2 months, it would obviously take a lot longer to get things done. But if there was an agreement made, then Iran would have to give up everything. And then once that was completed, then they would be completely vulnerable to any kind of an attack from either Israel or the United States. Ergo, there is virtually no chance that this gets done. Again, it didn't get done in 7 years. It didn't get done in all the years of Trump's first administration when he kept saying he was going to negotiate a better deal on many of these same issues. That didn't happen then. So there's really no reason why anyone should expect a diplomatic breakthrough now that the Iranians are suddenly going to capitulate after having not done so all this time. I guess anything is possible, and who knows what their own calculations are. So we won't completely render it off the table. But we have to look at the likelihood that there's not going to be a deal. Now, what does that then mean about the kinetic option here? What does that mean about there will be bombing? Or, as he just said, there will be a very bad day for Iran. To use American lethal military power against another country, the laws are very clear on this. There is the Constitution, which gives the sole war-making power of the United States to Congress, the sole military war-making power. It's not shared, it's the sole. The president, the chief executive, is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But the framers of the Constitution expressly put a gap between the commander in chief and who gets to send them into conflict and who gets to make that decision. In case there was any doubt on that, it was clarified in 1973 as a result of President Nixon abusing that power and several others. And so they said, okay, we're going to specify. There's only 3 possibilities where the commander-in-chief can unilaterally use lethal military power in another country. Number 1, that there was a declaration of war made by the Constitution, so they handed him the power. Number 2 is an express military authorization. You may have heard that the AUMF, like what the Congress gave to Bush before the 2003 Iraq War, which was badly abused. So talk about that on another occasion, but that is still a legal use that the president can use to use the military force. Or the third is that the United States has been attacked, or its military has been attacked by a foreign country. That's it. This myth that the president can do whatever he wants for 60 days and then has to get congressional approval, that is wrong. That is complete misreading of the document. It is black and white. There is no possibility that's true. So has the United States Congress declared war on Iran? No. Have they expressly passed an AUMF? No. Has Iran attacked the United States of America or our armed forces? No. So if we're going to be legal and if we're going to be a country governed by the rule of law, Trump does not, let me state this categorically, President Trump does not have the authority to legally take the action that he said he was going to right there. He doesn't. That's not to say he may not do it, because unfortunately, our government writ large has become so ossified that the separation of powers built in so wisely by the framers has really just morphed into one thing. Whoever has the political power, just regardless of whether it's judicial, legislative, or executive branch, it almost doesn't matter. It's kind of ossified into one big blob now. So if you have the numbers, especially in the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the White House, then there is almost nothing anyone can do to stop it. Even if they wanted to do so and take it to the courts or something like that, you have a very friendly court system right now for the Republican side. So the political wins are all on Trump's favor. He can take whatever action he wants to. And there's almost no chance that anything would happen. By the law, that would be a violation of the both specific 1973 War Powers Act and the Constitution itself, which would seem to be something that would apply to an impeachment proceeding. High crimes and misdemeanors would certainly seem to do that. But that's only if there's political will. The only thing that matters is the political will. Even if like we've had on several occasions, to where you had a majority of one party in the House of Representatives and a different party in the White House, they have impeached the president. President Trump got impeached twice. President Clinton got impeached by the Republican House. But in both cases, the presidential party had the numbers in the Senate. So right and wrong doesn't matter. There's no presumption of guilt or innocent or anything else. It purely, exclusively matters who has the votes. So there's no danger of that either, because it's unconscionable. I can't even imagine the possibility that a Republican Senate would ever vote to impeach the president, not to mention the fact that right now they also have the House, so that they would never vote for one of those. So that means that in practice, that Trump can do that. Doesn't matter what the law is. It doesn't matter what the Constitution says. None of those things actually matter right now, because Trump can take whatever action he wants. That is a dangerous place. Even if Trump took this action and it turned out to work, and it did decimate the Iranian nuclear program, and it set them back 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and if it maybe even harmed their administration and their regime, et cetera, which some people have fantasies about, overthrowing the regime, somehow bringing in a new Shaw-like pro-American situation, that would be very dangerous for American democracy, because you're now solidifying and deepening in that there are no laws against the chief executive taking whatever military action he wants. You are almost just digging in and making it concrete that now then the chief executive is the equivalent on military matters of a monarch, of a king, to where he could just take whatever action he wants and no one can do anything about it. That's what nearly will make it. And then maybe we're already there. I say nearly. We probably are already there right now. That means that at some point, somebody can take an action that can get you in real trouble and actually spawn a bigger war that nobody wants, nobody would have agreed to, but that no one will have a choice in, because the one man or the one woman who may occupy that office in the future has the power to unilaterally do it. It is a dangerous place. We need the separation of powers. We need to be governed by the rule of law for our own interests. We just need to be doing that. And I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but unfortunately, those things are inextricably intertwined with his current situation here. And then, of course, even aside from the legality issue, there's and this is also very closely interacted with the legality issue, the effectiveness. Can we take out the Iranian nuclear capability? Can we destroy all the centrifuges? Can we destroy safely the nuclear material that they already have? What kind of action would they have in response? What would the Iranian reaction be? Can we handle that? What if they do what I think it was the commander of the IRGC said a number of days ago, that, oh, by the way, we're looking around at the map of the Middle East and we noticed that, hey, there's about 50,000 American troops scattered throughout here at various bases. And by the way, we have a lot of new weapons and missiles that can penetrate whatever air defenses they have in some of these places, and they'd be virtually helpless against us. And if you come after us, we'll go after your troops there. Or maybe even some of the facilities of some of our allies in the region, guilty by association. I mean, the whole thing could go up in flames. The whole Middle East could turn into a raging inferno. Obviously, I've talked many times, they could also shut down the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, there's all kinds of problems that they could cause if we went after the regime and started trying to take out their nuclear facility. And there doesn't seem to be much consideration of that. I think there's been too much comfort drawn by the fact that when in 2024, the two times when Israel and Iran had a tit for tat exchange of missiles, that the ones that came back from Iran towards Israel after Israel had taken the provocative action it did, destroying the embassy and then assassinating somebody in their capital city, each time that happened, because the U.S. had two aircraft carrier groups in the area and we had plenty of advance warning, we were able to shoot down all those. And so some of the missiles that did make it through the Iron Dome, et cetera, either landed in open desert or they caused minimal damage in some of the outside, didn't cause any loss of life, which at the time Iran was careful to do because they didn't want to escalate it. But if you go into a situation where you literally put their regime at threat and give them the choice of either death or striking back and maybe doing something different, now then you take away their restraint. If they think that you're coming after them, then they may not restrain like they did last time. And the next set of missiles may be sent to Tel Aviv or to Jerusalem or to some high-value target. They may try to kill people instead of trying to avoid to kill people. That's only to the Israeli portion of it. Then there's the American component, and we've got vulnerability all over the Middle East. That's why I have, since 2019, viciously and strongly said, let's get those troops out of there. I've just been vehement about it. There's no way those troops dare do anything positive for America, but they do serve as their strategic vulnerability. This is a case in point. Right now, our own troops are kind of holding us hostage, because if we take this military action here, we could actually bring all this harm to our own people who are just sitting in the desert are targets right now, just wondering if they're going to be attacked on or not. Let's hope none of that happens. I pray that these negotiations do reap some benefit, that some common sense comes in, or that the rule of law opposes some stuff and we don't take this kinetic action, because it has very, very low probability, almost none, of accomplishing anything positive for our side. It won't bring Israel security. It won't bring American security any more than we have, because we already have plenty. We don't need any additional. So it won't help that, but it could literally unleash a fire in the Middle East. And that is why we shouldn't do it, because it's illegal and it's not authorized by our laws or the Constitution. We shouldn't do it. Every way this needs to go away and does not need to happen. I just pray to God that diplomacy or common sense, one of the two, prevents anything from escalating further. Okay, next up on there, the conversation was the issue with the Houthis themselves. Now, this is the issue in the Red Sea, where the Houthis have been attacking shipping, have cut down 70% of the normal traffic that goes through the Red Sea. They've been taking the long way around. It costs a lot more money. And the United States under Trump has said, all right, we're gonna finish this deal off, and we're gonna start attacking the Houthis. They've been doing a bunch. I showed you one over the weekend where evidence suggested that wasn't a military engagement by the Houthis, but we may have killed some local Muslims who were actually doing some sort of an Eid celebration. It's unclear. We don't have a lot of information on that, but the drone footage that was used that showed the explosion did not look like any military exercise I've ever seen, but did look very much like a lot of the Islamic ceremonies that have been done in the region. We'll wait to see how that works out. But the bigger issue now is this going to be any more effective than the near decades and back to 2015 that the Saudi Arabia, with American help, had been trying to quell the Houthis without success. So Trump was asked on that, along with Pete Hegseth.
We have a big problem that we've done. I think I'll ask Pete to maybe talk about it for a second, because a lot of people are asking. The Houthis, we've been very tough and very successful militarily. We've really damaged them badly. These were people shooting down ships and other things, by the way, flying objects like airplanes. And we've put a major hurt on the Houthis, which nobody's been able to do. We've really hit them hard, and they know it, and they don't know what to do. And it's every night, night after night, and we've gotten many of their leaders and their experts. They're experts on missiles. I mean, they actually make missiles. Nobody thought that, but they make missiles. They're highly sophisticated, and they're very tough, but they've been very badly damaged. Nobody else was able to do that but us. Pete, you want to discuss that, please?
Yes, sir. It's been a bad 3 weeks for the Houthis, and it's about to get worse. It's been a devastating campaign, whether it's underground facilities, weapons manufacturing, bunkers, troops in the open, air defense assets. We are not going to relent, and it's only to get more unrelenting until the Houthis declare they will stop shooting at our ships. And we've been very clear at the Iranians as well. They should not continue to provide support to the Houthis, and that message has been made very clear. So we have a lot more options and a lot more pressure to apply, and we know, because we see the reports, how devastating this campaign has been in them, and we will not relent.
Yeah, a lot of options and a lot more devastating firepower, so he says, but it has not worked so far. All these big hits that we've had, all the strikes, all these targets that he just talked about being hit there, the Red Sea's still not open. The Houthis have not backed down. And as a CNN article came out earlier today, I think it is, that says that, look, despite all of these strikes, all these things we've been doing to hit the Houthis, then instead they're relishing them, as this headline says. Far from being cowed by U.S. airstrikes, Yemen's Houthis may be relishing them. And listen, this is not surprising to anybody who studied this at all. And I just shake my head of like, what do these people think who are making these plans? What do they think this is going to accomplish when you have our own experience in Afghanistan? I myself personally observed. I was assigned to my second combat deployment in Afghanistan in 2010 and 2011. And I saw us that when we surged our troops in there and we sent more troops in to kill the Taliban because they had been rising in number. And we said, okay, we'll send like a ton, I think it was over 100,000 American troops, 40,000 NATO, plus 350,000 some odd Afghan national security forces, overwhelming force. And there was allegedly 20-something thousand Taliban at the time. So you think we're going to overwhelm them with force, we're going to kill them all, and then we're going to bring peace and security to Afghanistan. What happened? We did not bring peace and security to Afghanistan. We did not get rid of the Taliban. Every time we sent more troops in, and this happened throughout the entire course of this war, we keep sending all these troops in, and the number of Taliban grows. So you keep having all these kinetic operations, and every one of these, I kept seeing so many stories about how many Taliban we killed, and we took out this mid-level leader, we took out this high-level leader, we took out this whole, weapons lab situation here, or all the other kind of things, and yet the numbers keep growing. And of course, after 20 full years, we left in defeat. The Taliban was there before we came in. The Taliban was there after we left. The Taliban is there today. So there should have been a lesson to learn here that you can't kill your way out of one of these situations here. And we already have a full decade of the Saudis trying to do it, and of us trying to help, and of Israel helping out ever since the 10/7 2023 after that terrorist attack. The Biden administration had lots of strikes. The Israeli government has had it done. Now then, we're doing it yet again, and we're doing more. Why does anybody think that this is going to work now when it didn't before? And because of the mentality that's over there, it's every time you kill a bunch of people, you just put the grist in the ground, if you will, to create more. And that's what we're seeing happening. It's playing out that way again. So I don't know what the administration is going to do if, now the weeks start turning into months, the Red Sea stays not open. And listen, the Houthis have been very clear. There is a way to get them to stop doing these attacks. They have said so relentlessly since this thing started, and that is that this all started exclusively because the Israelis went into the Gaza Strip and started killing large numbers of Palestinian people. That's what started it. None of this happened before that, the incursion into Gaza. They said, if you'll stop attacking the people in the Gaza Strip, we'll stop attacking Red Sea. When a ceasefire was announced in between Israel and Hamas, the Houthis were good to their word, and they stopped attacking. The only time they said they were going to reinitiate it after the Israelis went back on the ceasefire and cut off the food supply to the Palestinian people. They said either release that, put the food back in there, or we're going to release our own moratorium. And before they could do it, then the Trump administration went in there and started attacking them. That's the reality of it. So we're going down a path here. And by the way, we have the same legal issues involved striking the country of Yemen as we would if we go into Israel. We weren't attacked. And you can't say, well, there have been some American ships attacked, so we have a blanket, because the only reason American ships have been attacked is because we attacked them. We initiated this stuff, and then they're responded back. It doesn't work that you can say, well, that no matter why we're attacked, we can respond. Obviously, if an American ship is attacked, it's going to defend itself. That's self-evident. But the government can't use that response against our initial attack as justification for now we can go in. It doesn't work that way. We started off by attacking them first, and then they're attacking in response. So that doesn't cover the legal issue. Not that anyone cares about that in the government, but that's the reality of it. It is violating the law. But it's also ineffective, as I keep saying. There's more than one issue involved here, and this is just not going to end well for our side. So I get it. There's a lot of people that are supportive of the Trump administration, and a lot of people want to see this solved. But this, I don't know what you call it, mythology, this fairy tale kind of view of the use of power, that we can make things happen. We can compel people, bend them to our will. Folks, it doesn't work. You have graphic evidence over the last couple of decades to show it doesn't work. That's just not how things work in the real world. We need to keep ourselves safe from actual attack. And that's why we have a national defense. That's why I'm a strong proponent for a strong national defense, to prevent us from being attacked and give us the ability to win a war if we have to fight one. But don't go seeking a war. Don't violate your own laws in going after one. That doesn't help us. It doesn't keep us safe. And by the way, there's even a financial issue involved here. According to reports so far, just in the Trump part here, we've already expended close to $1 billion going after the Houthis. And apparently that number is going to continue to escalate. Because just imagine some of these drones and some of the cruise missiles that they fired against us. Some of the drones are as cheap as like $25,000. The missiles that we use to shoot them down, some of them are $2 to $4 million each. So all this stuff combined, it's about $1 billion so far and going up. If the Houthis were wanting to be smart about this, they would probably get as many of these $25,000 drones as they could and just relentlessly keep shuttling them out to the Red Sea. And we'll bleed ourselves dry, knocking them down, because they're lethal targets. I mean, they're lethal weapons. So you have to shoot them down. You can't take a risk with that, because one of those things gets through and you've got a severe wound and damage on your ship and probably the dead American sailors. So we have to do that. But I mean, they'll bleed us dry. by just, I mean, just constant firing of these missiles. These things are not cheap, and they're also hard to, we don't have that many of them because we've given so many to Israel. We've given so many to Ukraine over the years. Our inventory is low as it is, and they could continue just whittling this stuff down. It's also hard to resupply. You can't just, in some of these categories, you can't just like bring them in on another ship to offload it. You have to take the ship itself that fires some of these things off to a port. Well, that takes a lot of time going to and forth, and a lot of logistic challenges and difficulties and effort to get it done. This is a net loss for us. And listen, I don't see the future. Who knows? Maybe the Houthis will calculate that the pain is just too great. Maybe they'll end up succumbing. I doubt it, but I guess it is theoretically possible. But it's unlikely, and for sure, it's going to be very, very costly for us going forward. Last thing that was talked about in this press briefing here was the issue of Gaza, and that's a very painful issue for a lot of people, especially if you're a Palestinian person, and rife with a different set of legal issues and ethical ones as well.
You know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in, but having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Is the immigration, sorry, Mr. President, is the immigration plan still on the agenda?
Which immigration?
From Gaza. From Gaza.
All it is a concept that I had that I think is good, and now people are copying it. You know, maybe you want to tell. People are talking about the Trump plan. Gee, why don't we do that? Would you like to answer that question?
I think what the president talked about is, first of all, to give people a choice. You know, Gazans were closed in, and every other place, including in arenas of battle. I mean, whether it's Ukraine or Syria or any other place, people could leave. Gaza was the only place where they locked them in. We didn't lock them in. They're locked in. And what is wrong with giving people a choice? Now, we've been talking, including over lunch, about some countries, I won't go into them right now, that are saying, you know, if Gazans want to leave, we want to take them in. And I think this is the right thing to do. If you give, you know, it's going to take years to rebuild Gaza. In the meantime, people can have an option. The president has a vision. Countries are responding to that vision. We're working on it. I hope we'll have good news for you.
I will say people really do love that vision. It's a long-term vision, but so importantly is to have that be a safe field, because you're right smack in the middle of the Middle East. You're right along Israel. It should have never, ever been given away. It shouldn't have been given away by Israel. I don't know why they did it. I mean, I do know why, because they were promised peace, but that didn't work out too well, because it's one of the most dangerous pieces of land anywhere in the world. Gaza is one of the most dangerous places in the world. So they gave it away for good intention, and it didn't work out that way. And a lot of people like my concept, but, you know, there are other concepts that I like, too. And there's some concepts I don't like. You know what I don't like? The way it is now. Because right now it's a dangerous death trap, Gaza.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. Gave Gaza away. The Israelis, like, they just gave Gaza away for no good reason, and it was abused, blew up in their face. Okay. Gaza was never given away. The Israelis, after they attacked and went in there and invaded it, Then they withdrew because it was too costly to manage it and to maintain it. So they withdraw from it. They didn't give anything away. And this idea that Israel did not lock them in, I mean, what does anybody think? Who else is there? Israel is in control of the Gaza Strip. They have hermetically sealed it off. The people have been, that's why they call this an open air prison. Of course, Israel is the one locking them in. They won't let them go out of those areas there. Even in the West Bank, there are severe restrictions on the movements of Palestinian people in those areas on that side. That doesn't get much notice right now because so much focus on the Gaza Strip. But this even goes back further, of course, to the 1947, when the Israelis, kicked off of the land, most of the current land of Israel, many of the Palestinians, and it was just this brutal pogrom that went on. Listen, I know it makes some people uncomfortable, but it's a historical fact. It's just black and white. There's no question about it. Absolutely clear that was done. So this whole thing about Gaza itself was where people were shoved onto it from other areas and basically turned into a prison there where they were denied many of just the standard rights of just being able to live, etc. So we need to just be clear on terms here. The other thing is about this choice to leave that Netanyahu was talking about. Now, that's been something that has been an interest of some in Israel and the United States for a long time, that says, hey, just get them out of there. Well, that's basically you're putting a happy face on ethnic cleansing. The people, by and large, in Gaza, they don't want to leave because they consider that their land. That's where they were on there before 1947, and they believe it's their historical land, so they don't want to go. They just want to be free, and they want to have rights in there. They want to have the ability to go out, to not be locked in, and to have a chance to have a normal life. And that's what is still the case. I'm sure there's no question in my mind that if an option was open, I'm sure some people would just be willing to get out of harm's way. And if they actually do make good on making that an option, we'll see if even that turns out to prove. I'm sure some would take it, but a whole bunch doesn't or won't. And so the question is going to be, what are you going to do to those who won't willingly leave? I'm going to talk about Hamas. I'm talking about just regular Palestinian people. Are you going to kill them all? Are you going to say, okay, well, whoever's left, okay, well, we'll go back to the status quo ante. We'll go back to how it was before October 7th of 2023. We'll go back to before that. I don't know that that's going to be successful. The pressures that were building up that led to the terrorist attack on October 7th would then be replaced, except they would be compounded infinitely worse, because now then you have literally leveled the place and virtually wiped out the cities. Gaza City in the north, some of these others in the south have been so destroyed that there's no city even left. It's nothing but concrete rubble. So if you don't fix that and give them a place to live, then whoever stays, and I would wager it's going to be probably close to, I mean, even if a bunch of people left, 1.5 million, 1.75 million, it's a lot. So there's not going to be a whole lot of people taking religion. So then what are you going to do if they don't willingly leave? Are you then going to compel them to leave? And who's going to take them? They say these countries that he didn't want to mention there. Well, we know for sure that Jordan and Egypt are categorically against it because they said they don't want to participate in the ethnic cleansing. So they're not going to go there. Well, then who is? Other countries around somewhere else, maybe some in Africa. I don't know. I have heard some rumors of some various places that they apparently are willing to talk about that. But I would wager that that's going to be a small number. And who's going to take care of them there? You're talking about people who have lived in the Gaza Strip their whole life, and they've lived under these conditions. And now then you're going to put them into this other place here. Are they going to have jobs? Is someone going to make housing for them? Are they going to be able to live and have freedom to do whatever they want to do? Who's going to pay for all of that? Who's going to take care of them? And who's going to ensure that those people don't get out of there? And now then, because of anger about all the things that have happened in the past, now want to go back and have conduct terrorist attacks against Israel. Very real possibility. Very real possibility. Who's going to monitor that situation? What country is going to take all of that stuff in without getting some big payback in response? And who's going to pay that? Israel? The United States? Because I don't expect some country out of charity to want to be on Trump's good side and accept all of the cost and all of the risk with none of the benefits. That's probably not going to happen. So this just does not seem to have a very high probability of chance here. So net, all the things you're looking at here, there are some real risk to American national security and American well-being here. The Iran situation has the possibility of blowing up into a full-fledged regional war. The Houthi situation is likely going to just linger and fester and going forward as long as we maintain this current operations here, because there's no attainable military objective that you can say, all right, here's the instinct that we want, here's the resources to get there, and here's the time frame we can expect it in. There is none of that. They just want them to stop the Red Sea, but they are already willing to stop if these other things happen. And if those things don't happen, there's no reason to think that they're going to stop now. So that probably is going to fester for a long time. It's going to cost us a lot of money. It's going to cost us a lot of diversion, a lot of combat power that's focused in on that. It's an open-ended mission. And then, of course, the issue with Gaza here, which has been festering since 1947. And it's gone through a few heightened periods and then down to low boil and then back up to high. And now it's at the worst condition it's ever been ever since the original 1947 Nakba. That's the truth of it. That's where we are here. Lots of opportunities for this to all go south. And in my view, there is no gain for America on any of these fronts. There is only risk and loss possible. And this is just a bad news for us. We need to be lowering our footprint in the Middle East. We need to be letting other countries take care of this. Iran is balanced regionally by other hostile countries to Iran. We don't need to be doing this. Let them handle it themselves, like they did in all the decades before we started getting involved here. Remember, during the Reagan years, we didn't have any. After we suffered in the Beirut bombing, he pulled us out, and we were out of there until George Bush went back in after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. So that's an issue for the regional people to navigate. We don't have to go in and take care of every problem that happens in the Middle East. Our security doesn't depend on it. Our national security doesn't depend on it. Our energy security doesn't depend on it because of our domestic resources. Lots of other countries in there that can handle it if something happens, but that's something that they can manage themselves. We don't need to be there. We don't need to have all these 50,000 troops there, these points of vulnerability. We don't need to go solve somebody else's problem. We don't need to go in and say, take care of Iran, take care of the Houthis. That is not our objective. It's not our job. It's not our authority to do so. It's all cost and loss for us. And we need to make sure this doesn't go any further south. We need to be moving in the opposite direction, not getting more involved. But we'll see where this is going to go from here. That's what was announced so far. We're going to be keeping a lot of close tabs on this, especially as we get more information about whatever's supposed to happen on Saturday between the United States and Iran, and we'll keep you up to date with all of that stuff too. So thank you very much for joining with us today. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Daniel Davis Deep Dive.